Hey, this is SXE Blues, and I am bringing you part 3 of my Star Trek film retrospective. This is dealing with Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, and let's go ahead and jump right into it. Thanks for joining me. The first scene I want to mention, I have 6 for this film, involves, toward the beginning of the movie, we have a little bit of a prologue flashback to what transpired at the end of the previous film with Spock's sacrifice and dying, and we see that Spock's father Sarek goes to visit Captain Kirk, and or I think he's still Admiral at this point, because he believes that Spock would have found a way to place his Vulcan katra or soul within someone close to him, which would probably have been Kirk if possible, but unfortunately it was not possible, and the unwitting victim, so to speak, it ends up being Dr. McCoy. So the first scene I'm pointing out here is when the alarms sound after the Enterprise is on its way home, that Spock's quarters have been breached, and Kirk goes down to find out what's going on. He finds someone lurking in the shadows that sounds like Spock at first, but it turns out to be McCoy, because essentially there's a battle of the minds going on within McCoy's psyche, and he speaks about having to get back to Mount Seleia, which is, I guess, one of the religious peaks on Vulcan. And so this it's very strange to a degree, and dramatic way to let us know that there's more going on than what the title just suggests. It's not going to be a simplistic story, and this marks, because of DeForest Kelley's the way he portrays this scene is just very convincing and very somewhat offsetting, but in a because the portrayal is effective kind of way. Moving on to the second scene I want to reference is after they've returned to port, and I believe McCoy takes it upon himself to go looking for whatever bottom dregs of the barrel transport to the Genesis planet he can find. He's arrested and confined, and meanwhile, after the reveal with Spock's father Sarek of what the katra being implanted in McCoy involves, Kirk, when he finds out he will not be able to get permission to take the Enterprise and take McCoy and go out in search of Spock's seeming corpse, to reunite soul with body, and he gets pretty firm no. There's this great sort of like build-up sequence to all our favorites in the cast. You have Uhura is manning the transporter situation, and you have Kirk going in to get McCoy, and Scotty's taking care of dealing with the Excelsior, messing with the Excelsior's engines. And there's just this it's a whole great scene where they are basically essentially stealing the Enterprise and kidnapping McCoy, and the camaraderie in the scene, and the humorous end where they successfully get out of space dock and they warp, go to warp, and there is the Excelsior captain thinking they're going to go to transwarp and be right on top of them, and sure enough, doesn't work, conks out. It's just a very memorable scene, and it's the first time we see this type of space station, and it just, the visuals, seeing a new Star Trek ship, which is Excelsior, and seeing that, the familial and friendly camaraderie between them and the loyalty between them to try to go to any means to save their friend, and in this case save two friends. It's just a really fun, great scene. Moving on from there, we jump ahead to when I don't remember what the ship is called, but David Marcus, Kirk's son, as well as Savick, are orbiting the Genesis planet, and they get some strange readings because, as it turns out, David has, messed around with hit the project, to cut ends, here and there, and so things are going wrong, and so they go down to the planet, and because they're getting like life signs, and sure enough, they find Spock, but it's not what they were expecting. They don't find Spock's corpse. They find Spock's body alive and well. The mind is missing, so to speak. And, let's not go into the whole Spock's brain from the original series that image conjures. But suffice to say, they find a young Spock who is rapidly aging because his body, whatever you want to call it, is his aging process is like matched to what's happening to the planet. And every time the planet convulses, he ages more, very violently and very quickly. And it's just what the scene I'm talking about here is the one that's oft debated about. Originally the intention was that Savick was going to become pregnant with Spock's child. Whether that was illegitimate or not remains to be seen. Thankfully, they didn't go down that road. I don't think I would have enjoyed that too much, but it's when he's experiencing Pon farr, and she's the only Vulcan female there, so let's just say he gets the heats and she eases it. So it's an interesting scene because I like what they do with their fingers. It kind of harkens back to what Spock's parents on the original series, the way they would hold each other by pressing their fingers, or show they're caring for each other that way. And so yeah, that was cool. The next scene I want to mention is not too long thereafter, when the villain of the piece, Captain Krug, I guess, as portrayed by Christopher Lloyd, he's basically trying to get Kirk to understand the gravity of the situation, and because Kirk isn't going to go along with what this rogue Klingon wants, he says one of the hostages on the Genesis planet, because there are now three, the young mindless, if you will, Spock, Savick, and David Marcus, have been trapped, have been cornered by Klingons, and Krug orders one of them killed. And this scene is, it's, I think, somewhat heart-wrenching because in the previous film, David and Kirk have had a reconciliation. They've accepted each other, and just on the verge of that acceptance, it's all taken away because David is the one ultimately killed. And this, goes on, which is kind of cool, the continuity of the Star Trek films, that it plays a role later in the series in Star Trek 6, that Kirk holds Klingons, all Klingons, somewhat in a blinded by rage, racist viewpoint as being criminal and not deserving of their lives, because his son was stolen. His son's life was stolen by Klingons. But it's a very, somewhat of a shock, I guess, but to see that happen so brutally in a Star Trek film. But moving on to the second to last scene is probably my all-time favorite scene in all of the Star Trek films. It's the top scene. It comes immediately following when Kirk has lured the Klingons over to the Enterprise and he set the self-destruct, and they beam down to the Genesis planet at the last minute as the Klingons are just beaming over. And as the Enterprise is blowing up and it comes spiraling into the orbit of the planet, of the Genesis planet, you have, Kirk, McCoy, Sulu, and Scotty, and I think Chekhov, standing on this mountaintop, looking up, watching the ship coming into orbit, burning to cinders, and caught up in the emotion of the realization of losing this ship that he's, it's been his mistress his entire life. And he says, "My God, Bones, what have I done?" And McCoy responds, "What you had to do, what you always do, turn death into a fighting chance to live." The greatest, for me, personally, dialogue in any of the 11 Star Trek films. What's happening in that scene, what is spoken in that scene, the emotions that it evokes, the many varied emotions that it evokes, and the dramatic sense of, the Enterprise is gone, and, this coming after not only losing Spock and fighting to regain him, but then losing David, Kirk's son, and, fighting to not have any more loss, essentially. And it's just a very deep, very moving moment, and probably my favorite of all 11 films. But that brings me to the final scene I want to mention, which is there's kind of two parts to it. The first thing is I always get a kind of kick out of when Kirk and Krug fight, and he gets Krug over the ledge and he kicks him in the face. "I have had enough of you," and that's pretty funny. But the main scene I wanted to get to, the final scene for Search for Spock, is the katra ceremony that takes place on Vulcan. They have this Vulcan priestess who, she warns McCoy that, it's a very dangerous process. It can ultimately kill both he and Spock. And, and McCoy says, now you tell me. But they go through the process, and ultimately Spock is, I don't want to say reborn, but, brought back to life, so to speak. And although not all there, kind of bits and pieces Spock, but the great scene at the end where the Trek family is back together finally. Uhura is even there, and they're also happy that they have Spock back. And there's that great little bit with Leonard Nimoy's raising the eyebrow, and it just, for the way Wrath of Khan ended, and a lot of people were heartbroken and upset. And this movie, it takes a little while to get there, but this is the payoff. This is Spock is back, and for that, it's just a great way to end the film. But this is gonna, I'm gonna segue into my next video, which will be dealing with, my fourth part, which is dealing with the voyage home. And I hope you stick around and catch it. So, see you later. Peace.